The universe went white. One moment, Sergeant Kaelen Vance was wrestling the controls of his Sabre-class interceptor, the stray dog, the screams of his dying squadron echoing in his helmet. The next, a desperate, unauthorized jump tore a hole in spacetime and his ship plunged through. He blacked out, the G-forces crushing him like a giant's fist. He awoke to silence. Not the tense, ready silence of a carrier deck, but a deep, dead quiet that felt ancient. The ship's emergency lights cast long, eerie shadows across the cockpit. His console was dark, save for a single blinking rune, a system error he'd never seen before. "Echo, status report," Kaelen croaked, his throat raw. The ship's VI, a simple logistical unit, took a full 10 seconds to respond. Its voice, usually a crisp, synthesized baritone, was distorted and slow. "Symptom clock malfunction. Chronometers are desynchronized. Attempting to recalibrate using pulsar network." Kaelen's blood ran cold. A chrono desync wasn't like running out of fuel. It meant you were lost, not in space, but in time. He forced himself to check the view screen. Outside was a field of debris, the metallic husks of ships he didn't recognize, all scared of the telltale energy signatures of Vorlag disruptors. The Vorlag sovereignty, the enemy they had been fighting. "Pulsar lock acquired," Echo announced, its voice still wavering. "Recalibrating complete. Sergeant, there appears to be a significant temporal discrepancy." "How significant, Echo?" Kaelen asked, his knuckles white on the controls. "Based on stellar drift and cosmic microwave background radiation, 73,000 years have passed." The words didn't compute. They were just noise. Impossible. A jump could misplace you by a few light years, maybe a few days. Not this. He was a pilot, a brawler from the grimy orbital docks of Titan, not a scientist. But he knew this was a death sentence. "Search for human comm signals," he ordered, his voice a ghost of its usual command. "Terran Federation, Colonial Authority, any fleet transponders." Echo was silent for a long, agonizing minute. "Searching. No active Federation signals detected. No colonial transponders. No human signatures of any kind." The silence in the cockpit pressed in on him. 73,000 years. His squadron, his family, the war, the neon-drenched streets of Neo-Kyoto he dreamed of returning to. All of it was dust. Less than dust. A forgotten whisper in the abyss. He spent days drifting through that graveyard of ships, a ghost in his own tomb. Echo, piecing together information from the derelicts, began to paint a horrifying picture. The war had been lost. Humanity, after a century of brutal, fighting retreat, had been systematically extinguished. Earth, the shining blue cradle of their species, had been sanitized, a sterile bureaucratic term for being cracked open to the mantle. The Vorlag had won. They had erased humanity from the galaxy. Kaelen felt a void open inside him, a despair so vast it threatened to swallow him whole. He was the last one. The final, pointless echo of a species that had dared to reach for the stars and been swatted down for it. He remembered the words of his commander, General Eva Rostova, a woman with iron in her spine and fire in her eyes. "We are humanity," she'd told them before their last doomed mission. "We don't break. We don't bow. We fight until the last star goes out." A spark ignited in the cold emptiness of his soul. Anger. Pure, undiluted, and forged in the grief of a billion dillion dead. The Vorlag thought they had won. They thought the last star had gone out. They were wrong. One was still burning. "Echo," he said, his voice hard as diamond, Plot a course to a Sol system. I'm going home. The journey was a pilgrimage through a haunted house. He saw the ruins of human colonies, glassed planets, shattered orbital rings, silent monuments to a galactic tragedy. Echo compiled data, pulling fragmented logs from emergency beacons that had been crying into the void for millennia. He learned the names of heroes he would never meet. Dr. Aris Thorne, who would weaponize the comet to take out a Vorlag dreadnought, buying time for refugee ships. Captain Jia Li, who had held the line at Proxima Centauri with a single damaged cruiser, saving a convoy of children at the cost of her own. These weren't just data points. They were his people. They were the giants whose shoulders he stood upon, even if he was the last one left. He wasn't just Kaelen Vance anymore. He was the keeper of their memory. He was their vengeance. And in a fragmented data cache from a research outpost hidden in the Oort cloud, he found it. A final message from General Rostova herself, recorded in the last days of the war. It was a Hail Mary, a secret project codenamed Tiresias. If anyone finds this, Rostova's recorded voice said, filled with grim determination, the war is lost. But we did not leave our children defenseless. We built a ghost, a weapon to haunt the empire that murdered us. The file contained a set of encrypted coordinates deep in the Kuiper belt, a place marked on old star charts as a navigational hazard. Kaelen felt a surge of adrenaline. His grief had a target. His anger had a purpose. He pushed the stray dog's engines to their limit, a lone hunter streaking toward a forgotten secret. This is where the story of humanity's last son truly begins. If you believe one soldier's mission to avenge a species is a story worth telling, hit that subscribe button and join the fleet. Now, back to the fight. He found it nestled within a rogue ice planetoid, a hidden facility so well camouflaged that it was invisible to all, but the most specific sensor frequencies. Project Tiresias. As he docked, the station's automated systems recognized his ship's ancient Federation IFF tag and came to life. Lights flickered on, revealing a vast, cavernous laboratory. In the center, suspended in a shimmering containment field, was a device unlike anything he had ever seen. It was a matrix of crystalline structures and swirling liquid light, humming with restrained power. It wasn't a bomb or a gun. It was something far more elegant, far more human. The lead scientist's logs, left behind by a woman named Dr. Elara Vance, a distant ancestor perhaps, explained its function. The Vorlag's greatest strength was their unity. Their entire fleet was a single networked entity, centrally controlled by a ruling intelligence. Every ship, every soldier, every drone was a puppet on a string. Project Tiresias was designed to be the ultimate puppet master. It was a mimic engine, a conceptual weapon. It could perfectly replicate any ship's energy signature, any communication protocol, any FTL wake. It could become a ghost in their machine, a phantom in their network. It couldn't build a fleet, but it could make the Vorlag believe a fleet was there. It could turn their own rigid, centralized command structure into a weapon against them. Kaelen spent weeks integrating the Tiresias engine into the stray dog. His interceptor, once a simple fighter, was transforming into the most sophisticated infiltration tool ever conceived. Echo, his simple VI, was given access to the station's databanks, its processing power multiplying 1,000-fold. Their system is a hierarchy, Echo reported, its voice now smooth and lightning fast. All commands flow from sector overlords, who report to the primary conductor. The network is absolute. An order from a superior cannot be questioned. A wolfish grin spread across Kaelen's face. Then we'll give them some new orders. His first test was a Vorlag resource convoy in a neighboring system. He didn't fire a single shot. He used the Tiresias engine to project the signatures of a full-strength human battle group appearing on the Vorlag sensors as if from nowhere. Panic erupted in their comms channels. The Vorlag commander, faced with a ghost fleet, followed his rigid protocols and ordered an immediate, panicked retreat, directly into a nearby asteroid field Kaelen had chosen for that exact purpose. The convoy was crippled without a single human weapon being discharged. He was the Specter of Sol. A rumour. A ghost story whispered in the sterile halls of Vorlag command centres. A glitch in their perfect system. Kaelen Vance is no longer just a pilot. He is a weapon of psychological warfare. An avenging phantom turning the enemy's greatest strength against them. If you love that idea, power up that like button and show the galaxy that humanity's ingenuity never dies. Emboldened, Kaelen grew more audacious. He didn't just create phantom fleets, he began to manipulate the network itself. He used the Tiresias engine to infiltrate their command channels, feeding them false intelligence. He made them see rival fleets where there was only empty space. He rerouted supply ships to barren worlds. He fabricated reports of insubordination, turning ambitious Vorlag commanders against each other. The northwestern quadrant of their vast empire began to cannibalize itself, consumed by paranoia and suspicion, all orchestrated by a single man in a 70,000-year-old fighter. While digging deeper into their network, sifting through their archives to find the architects of humanity's fall, he stumbled upon something unexpected. A sub-level of their society he never knew existed. They were called the Jakor. The Jakor were a subjugated species, a race of insectoid engineers and artisans who had been conquered by the Vorlags centuries ago. They were the ones who built the ships, maintained the networks, and managed the Empire's logistics. They were slaves, living in segregated ghettos, their culture suppressed, their lives forfeit to the whims of their Vorlag masters. He found their hidden communications, their secret laments. They hated the Vorlag with a quiet, simmering passion that mirrored his own. They saw the chaos he was causing as a sign, a crack in the foundation of their prison. Then he intercepted a message not meant for him. It was from a Jakor dissident leader named Xylar. "The phantom in the network. It fights as the old stories describe the humans," the message read. "With cunning, not just force. It uses the master's own chains to strangle him. We must reach it. We must help." Kaelen was faced with a choice. Burn the Vorlag Empire to the ground. Avenge his people. Salt the earth of their worlds. But here was another enslaved race, praying for the very chaos he was creating. General Rostova had told him to build a ghost to haunt his enemies. But what would she say about this? What was justice when the enemy of your enemy was a victim themselves? He thought of the heroes he'd learned about. Dr. Thorne, Captain Lee. They hadn't fought just for humanity. They had fought to save the innocent, to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. His rage was a fire that had kept him going. But rage alone builds nothing but ashes. Humanity had been more than that. They were explorers, artists, builders. He made a decision. He sent a single, untraceable message back to the Jakor dissident, using a piece of pre-war human code he knew the Vorlag couldn't decipher. It was a line from an ancient poem he remembered from a history class on Titan. "The caged bird sings of freedom. A reply came back almost instantly. And the storm answers its call. We are yours to command, Spectre. Tell us how to break our chains. Then he intercepted a message not meant for him. It was from a Jakor dissident leader named Xylar. The phantom in the network. It fights as the old stories described the humans. The message read, with cunning, not just force. It uses the Master's own chains to strangle him. We must reach it. We must help. The Vorlag sovereignty, a monolithic empire that had stood for millennia, was about to be torn apart from the inside. He would be the hammer, and the Jakor would be the anvil. He couldn't bring humanity back, but he could give their memory a legacy worthy of their name. Not just an ending, but a new beginning. The last human was no longer alone. He was the commander of a revolution. The war for revenge was over. The war for liberation was about to begin. Kaelen has chosen his path, but the galaxy stands on a knife's edge. What would you do in his place? Trust the Jakor completely, or use them as a means to an end? Let me know your battle plan in the comments below. We read every one.